unplug it inappropriately and the file gets corrupted. What else can go wrong? We had one product that we had upgraded to another version of Windows. It was using embedded Windows. Embedded Windows, was it XP? I'm trying to remember now. But it was embedded Windows, and it was different. And the big thing that was different was if you tried using an extended desktop on it, this is the Windows is the computer inside our product. If you tried doing extended desktop, it would work. But if you tried turning off the extended desktop, ooh, bad things would happen. It wouldn't work at all. It locked it up. It bad things, error messages, and doesn't work when you power it back up. And in general, just a bad karma. And 5 dB.
Well, I'll tell you this. I went ahead and, well, I didn't. My company went ahead and did a upgrade. I got a new computer which is underpowered and old, even though it's new. And they put Windows 10 on it, or whatever it is. And, well, I'm not going to tell you how I feel about it. It comes up with its little error codes and things. I think it's sort of like what Windows NT was. It was pretty decent and it worked really well, and then they went to, what was it, the other Windows after that, and it wasn't so good. We had Windows 7, which was okay, but now we have Windows 10, and it's sort of not as good as Windows 7. But it's got a lot of bells and whistles, and there's some pretty graphics, panoramas they show you before you log in. So I get that, but the stability part might not be as good as it is. At any rate, I've had several messages that come back and say they hate me. It could be me. I know. Could be me. Probably is me, but I didn't have that in Windows 7. Windows 7 liked me better. KE5ICX.
My guess is the hardware wasn't really Windows 10 compatible. So the problem tends to be all the old device drivers. The computer was built before Windows 10 existed. And so everything, all the device drivers, everything was done with Windows 7. Now you have Windows 10, and some of the video boards or other kind of things in the product are so old, either you can't find the Windows 10 driver, or it just doesn't bother to discover that. And so that's usually the problem I've had with device drivers. And we have some products that use USB 3 to communicate to our product, and it needs to go high speed. We've got a streaming 224 megabytes a second, completely streaming, can't miss a beat. And a few years ago when we introduced this, a whole bunch of the Dell laptops, even new ones customers just turned on the first time, the USB drive, even though it had a port that was supposedly USB 3, the driver in there wasn't really USB 3 compatible. So you would try using it and it would just not work at all. And so the first thing we ask people is, do you have a Dell computer, a Dell laptop? Yes. Go and download the latest drivers. Don't even try using our product before you download the latest USB drivers, or you will not be successful. The problem doesn't exist now, but it did exist a few years ago on the Dell computers that were popular then. Sigh. And I won't talk about the Unix, not Linux, but the original Unix stuff that we had around 1990. And of course, if you pull the power cable out without powering down properly, the file allocation table on the disk was completely trashed. So when you turned it on, it took like 30 minutes or more to rebuild the disk so you could use it again. That was really, really, really fun. better wait for the net here. N5BB. Oh, by the way, Tom, I have a news item for National Space Society. There is a space-related topic for our meeting tomorrow. Woo! Dr. Kat Barger from TCU. So please, please, let me give my news item about National Space Society during Skynet. This is N5BB.
No, well, of course you've got that spot already staked out, so yep, I'll acknowledge you, so make it cool. I'm going to step out for a second. I'll be back in 3 minutes. This is KE5ICX. FC.
5BB. Bill, this is Whiskey Alpha 5 FYI.
Yes, WA5 FYI, this is N5BB. We have another net starting here in 3 minutes. How can I help you?
Oh, about 2 seconds worth. Your signal sounds really good. You have just a slight bit of noise in the background, but other than that, your gain and everything else is in good shape.
Thank you. I'm getting ready to adjust my antenna, so I'll be listening and moving the antenna around. Do appreciate it. N5BB.
WA5 FYI, we're clear. 73.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
It's time for Skynet. Does anyone need to use the repeater? This is Kilo Echo 5, India 2 X-ray. My name's Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning subjects of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become familiar with the night and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Patients with priority or emergency track may enter the net at any time by using the post sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? Please come now. This is a directed net, so please not transmit without direction from world net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency, which is, if you haven't guessed, 146.880 megahertz with a payload of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is w5fc.org right now for a complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is roughly 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. Have general announcements. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, and where and when you can look through a telescope. National Space Society events. Discussion topic of the evening, what you can see in the sky tonight, a featured constellation or topic. Recent astronomical discoveries. Space exploration and space history. Visible satellite passes over the next couple of days. Astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. We may or may not get to all of those, but we'll do our best. As I mentioned, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's go ahead and do exactly that. I'm going to take low power and short time check-ins. If you're one of those two, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power or short time.
Is November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen. Short time.
I have N5WI, William and Allen. Short time. Any other low power short time check-ins, please come now. All right, William, you have anything for us this evening? You're the only guy, so I'm going to just single you out. Do you have anything you'd like to bring to the net?
N5WI here. No, I just wanted to check in and participate. And I do listen to the net as it goes on, and sure enjoying being here. So, no, that's not all I got. N5WI, back to the net.
All right, very good. Just the only guy. I just thought I'd ask direct if you had anything before you disappeared, whenever that might be. But thanks for joining us, William. I'll go ahead and go to general check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Echo 5, Romeo, Foxtrot, Zulu, in Garland. Name is Darwin.
This is Kilo 9, Alpha, November, Papa, Allen, and Dallas.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
5, Papa. Kilo 5, Papa, Mike, and Richards. Juliet, Delta, Whiskey, John, and Kyle.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clancy.
5 KYM, Chris, and Crystal.
is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert A. Davidson.
Let me get those check-ins. I'm sure there's plenty more. I've got KE5RFZ at Darwin and Garland. I got K5ANP, Allen and Dallas, N5BB, Bill and Irving, K5P, Mike and Richardson, N5HYP, Tom and Irving. You will chop into the repeater, but I recognize your voice and your partial call. Gotcha. K5JDW, John and Coppell. He's in his summer home here in Dallas. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda DeSoto, K5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, N50F, Clay in Mesquite, KC5KYM, Chris in Frisco, gotcha. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, welcome back. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, everywhere, all the time. Additional check-ins, please come now. There was one station trying to get in. You were not able to hold the repeater and you were 100% static. You want to increase power, improve position, all that jazz. Hold the radio higher in the air. Try one more time. All right, that's okay. Let me go ahead and move over to Echolink. If you're on Echolink, you'd like to check in this evening, please come out with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from, and what am I forgetting? Oh, I guess that's it. Go ahead. Anyone on Echolink, Echolink only, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Blue Whiskey J, near Weatherford.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Julie at Hotel Alpha, Chaz, and Farmers Branch. I was the one trying to transmit, and for some reason the radio wasn't working.
All right, I think we got the mystery station that wasn't able to break into the repeater, so let me get those four. I've got N5IMS, JJ Carrollton, I got you on the chat box, KG5BZWJ near Weatherford, but only near Weatherford, KF5PDS, Miss Billy and Sherman, and Chaz, KF5JHA over in Farmers Branch. Okay, I will now take additional check-ins, any mode, any way you want. Just with your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar and Zulu Tango, Carolyn and Flower Mound,
opportunity to get additional checks later on. So I'm going to go ahead and pause now and ask if there are any general announcements that can be of ham astronomical space or of general interest to licensed hams. I'm going to find out what's wrong with my jaw tonight. Can't seem to get the words out. So if anybody's got any announcements they'd like to bring, please come. Hi, Tony.
Okay. Are you saying there's an echo? This is Tony, NT5TM. I just want to remind everyone, this is not the last night of the evening. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion tonight at 10:30 p.m. I know Tom will have more details. If you'd like to have a quick night watching movie or to find out more about it, we do have an Afterglow movie discussion group on Facebook. There is no meeting on the air or RACES training net this Sunday because it's the second Sunday, but we do have an MCOM 101 net this Monday on this repeater at 7 p.m. You don't have to be a RACES or ARES member. You just have to be interested in learning about public service communications. That's this Monday on this repeater at 7 p.m., the MCOM 101 net. And finally, I would like to remind everyone to head over to w5fc.org and sign up to help at the Frontiers of Flight event. This is a fun fellowship and just goofing off event. We bring out the club trailer. It's a great chance to get on the air, try out your portable equipment, and really promote the hobby because all of the people who come to see the historic aircraft are gearheads. They love radios. They love electronics. They're really natural recruits for ham radio. That's Saturday and Sunday this coming weekend, the 16th and 17th. More information at w5fc.org. So I hope you'll join us for all of our events, and I hope to see you out there at the Frontiers of Flight Museum this coming weekend. This is NT5D.
Thank you, Tony. Does anyone need any fills? Please come out. We'll move on. Does anybody have anything for the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas? Anybody here would like to make any comments? Please come out.
KF5, JHA.
Very good, Chad. You may want to turn down the radio in the background a little bit. There's a little bit of an echo. I know you sound great, even double, but you might want to turn it down because something weird might happen. Your evil doppelganger might come out. KF5JHA, Chaz, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry. Radio wasn't going to echo link mode this evening. So, yes, has usually a meeting on 10 months out of the year on the fourth Friday of each month. That would be at the UTD campus in the Science Learning Center. It's in the lecture hall on the lower floor. It happens at 7:30. Usually at 7 o'clock there's some sort of interesting thing that goes on as well. Also, on the fourth Friday, on the Saturdays of each month, we have several different observing sessions on the first Friday of Saturday. I keep on saying Friday. On the first Saturday of each month, we have the Stargazer Star Party in Spring Park in Garland. On the second Saturday, that would be this evening, Frisco Commons Park. I don't think that happened, not because of the weather, but because of the recent weather, because usually that ground gets really wet and they're really difficult to set up telescopes then. Then on the next Saturday, the third Saturday of the month, is Cedar Hill Star Bolt. That's in J.W. Williams Park. And Stars on the Rock is on the fourth Saturday at the Shores Park. Those usually happen right around as it's getting dusk. I will give it back to you, Tom. KF5 JHA.
All right, thank you, Chaz. And let's see, Miss Carolyn, I'm sorry, KC5. What was it? I thought I acknowledged you. Maybe I did not, but I acknowledge you. I see you over on Echolink. It was good seeing you today, by the way. Thank you so much for checking in tonight. I know you're kind of under the weather, but we appreciate you. I'll do the best job I can with tonight's Constellation. You can throw something at your computer later on. It isn't up to snuff, which it probably won't be. This is KE5ICX and net control for tonight's Skynet. Let's see here. Next up is National Space Events and Activities, N5BB. What do you have for us this evening?
Yes, sir, Tom. This is N5BB. I changed antennas. Do I sound at least as bad or good as I did earlier?
You didn't sound bad earlier. You were fine, but you now sound like the Bill that we all know. So your audio and the background is less. There's very little, in fact, just a little bit of noise that you've always had, but nothing bad at all. Certainly improved over what you were, which wasn't bad either. So you sound good. I guess that's too bad to make a good. I don't know. Back to you. Go ahead.
Okay, Tom. I was looking like for a yes or no. Okay, this is N5BB. The National Space Society of North Texas chapter will be meeting tomorrow, March the 10th, starting at 3:30 p.m. at the Spring Creek Barbecue Meeting Room. This is at 3514 West Airport Freeway in Irving. This is on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. It's directly across the highway from Irving Mall. The meeting topic will be the Large Magellanic Cloud, excuse me as I mispronounce it, Large Magellanic Cloud, which is a satellite galaxy of our Milky Way. The speaker will be Dr. Kat Barger, assistant professor at TCU. So Dr. Barger will be there tomorrow. Again, the meeting starts at 3:30. Usually the speaker starts and goes from about 4 to 5, usually, but they may start early. And you're welcome to get barbecue there so that our host, the Spring Creek Barbecue Place, keeps appreciating us. The meeting ends usually a little after 6. This is the business meeting. If you have any questions, let me know. This is N5BB. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Bill. Does anyone need any fills or have any questions, please contact N5BB directly. to the topic of this evening, and tonight, since I'm net control, I get to choose. This one, I was kind of lazy. I didn't go and put a major thing together, as I sometimes do. I don't always do, but sometimes do. But I found a really interesting article. This came from Ars Technica. This one was bandied about actually over on Facebook and social media. And I thought this article was so interesting that I'd share it tonight. So I'm going to read it to you. This has to do with the Dragon Demo 1 that docked this week at the International Space Station. And I thought that this was what would be the word? Oh, I can't remember. At any rate, I thought it was very interesting. Let's just go with a less precise word. The article is by Eric Berger, and it was from a couple of days ago. This is what he says. One of the big questions surrounding the first launch of the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft was how the Russians would react. They have held considerable sway in the International Space Station partnership by controlling access to the orbiting laboratories since 2011 and the retirement of the NASA Space Shuttle. So far, the Russian response has been one of throwing small bits of shade here and there, but trying not to be too obvious about it. On Sunday, when SpaceX Dragon spacecraft docked with the International Space Station, the Russian Space Organization sequestered cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko in the Russian segment of the station. This was Roscosmos said, so that Kononenko could take emergency action in case the Dragon became uncontrollable and crashed into the space station. After the successful docking, Roscosmos tweeted a Russian-language congratulations to NASA, but underscored the fact that, quote, the flight safety must be above reproach. An hour later, it was published a rare tweet in English sending its sincere compliments to the colleagues from NASA, but without the emphasis on vehicle safety. Neither tweet mentioned SpaceX. Monday, the Russian Space Corporation tweeted again, sharing pictures of Kononenko, NASA's Anne McCain, and Canadian David St. Jacques in their protective masks before entering the Dragon. This was a safety precaution with a new vehicle visiting. It wanted readers to know that the mission had made history another way. For the first time in history of the station, the crew worked on Russian-made IPK gas masks, the tweet stated. Finally, on Tuesday, Russian sources told Sputnik and other media about an unusual smell in the station and that a high concentration of isopropyl alcohol was found to be circulating in the air on board the International Space Station following Dragon's arrival. In reality, the concentration were quite low and disappeared after astronauts on the station used normal procedures to cycle the air. Now, all of us use isopropyl alcohol in our stuff, in our ham radio usage, or at least I do. No big deal. So what's going on here with this passive-aggressive reaction? One person who would probably know is Vadim Lukashevich, a Russian-based space expert. He was fired from the aerospace think tank at the Skolkovo in 2015 after writing articles opposing the transformation of Roscosmos from a government agency into a state corporation. On Monday, he gave an interview to Russian television station Moscow 24, which was published on YouTube and translated by Robin Mitchell. In the interview, Roscosmos says there's good reasons for Russians to feel threatened. In the quote below, he references Roscosmos leader Dmitry Rogozin, who was sanctioned by the U.S. government in 2014 and therefore suggested NASA should use trampoline to get into space. What a nice guy. Says, with this launch, even if it was ordered by NASA, this private company, SpaceX, has made Roscosmos null and void. They have shown Roscosmos who's who. Everyone remembers Rogozin's remarks about trampolines and such. In fact, this isn't just resentment. It is a constant major headache for Roscosmos. In the first place, the congratulations message was late. Second, Roscosmos sent out 2 congratulation tweets, one in English and another completely different in Russian. So, of course, this is a sign of resentment. It is a reaction of an unreliable leader who is lagging behind. Now, this is a quote, so really it was strange they reacted at all. Bear in mind, Roscosmos, in fact, never gave their approval for the docking. They voiced a number of technical concerns, perhaps even with some basis, but we saw that the docking was simply brilliant as it took place. So, yes, this was a reaction of someone left behind. Lukasevich was asked how the Dragon spacecraft compared to the Russian Soyuz, which has transported all astronauts to the station since 2011. Well, if we compare the ships on a technological level, our Soyuz is in principle unable to compete with the SpaceX Crew Dragon. This is because our Soyuz was ideologically built in the 1960s by Sergei Pavlovich Korolev. Yeah, remember that guy? He's dead. Even having undergone a lot of modifications, it is still flying to this day. It is reliable, and its bugs have been worked out. But it has become an unreliable ship in principle. Even when the Chinese built their ship, Heavenly Vessel, Shenzhou, a pretty name, on the basis of our Soyuz, they rebuilt the entire article. In the first place, the Chinese ship is bigger. Secondly, their habitation module is completely independent vehicle, able to undock and fly for up to a month on its own. As for the re-entry module, theirs is larger, more reliable, and less crowded than ours, and so forth. But Elon Musk has built the ship of the future. It's a 7th-place spacecraft. It is reusable. It is new technology. Accordingly, it beats Soyuz according to every parameter, but every technological indicator. It only needs to prove its usefulness for manned space launches, and then in July, it'll make its first manned flight. Musk will not only take away from Roscosmos, transporting foreign astronauts on Soyuz to the ISS is ending. Each year, we, Russians, receive about $400 million, and now that will end. We will be forced by this, most likely, to carry tourists. But Musk, who will be able to offer lower prices to tourists as well, and he has a ship with 7 seats. So what are we even talking about? Finally, Lukasevich addressed the fact that Russia must now fill that big budget hole. He says, I would like to point out something else interesting. From one point of view, this is a good thing, because we're carrying astronauts, and we're getting basically for free $400 million a year at about $90 million per seat for each foreign astronaut. This is more than the entire cost of the rocket and the ship and launch operations taken together. This means as long as we've had at least one foreign astronaut on board, we were launching for free. For us, this wasn't just a freebie, it was a narcotic. It allowed us to do absolutely nothing and still earn money. And now, this narcotic is going to be cut off, and we'll be forced to do something. Either we will pass into history, along with all of our space achievements, like Portugal, with its discovery of America, and the voyages of Magellan, and so forth, or will we have to seriously do something? We're going to have to get off at the needle. If our economy is sitting on an oil-gas needle, referring to Russia's primary economic dependence on oil and gas exports, then our space program has also sat upon a needle and become dependent on this American money. So now we must demonstrate what we were really made of. Are we really worthy of the glory of Gagarin? And that's how he completes it. Certainly this is not the kind of thing one expects to hear often from Russia about its venerable space program, but this is the kind of criticism is not unique. Former cosmonaut Valery Ruminin recently said that the leaders of Roscosmos are, quote, blowing more smoke than doing anything substantive. And another space editor said of the Russian space program, it was on the cusp of entering the dark ages. This is KE5ICX, and net control for tonight's Skynet. So my thought of this was I never really thought about the fact that, you know, the Russians have always had a space program, but they've always flown on an R-7 booster. It really hasn't changed all that much. And then the Soyuz spacecraft has been flying forever, since 1967, I think, was its first flight. So these things, they keep flying. It'd be the equivalent of us flying an Apollo spacecraft here in the 21st century. It doesn't make any sense. So this definitely sounds like a very threatening thing to the Soviets. Yeah, might as well be the Russian space program. So I don't know. I thought it was a very interesting article, and it was being passed about on Facebook, and I shared it over on the Skynet Facebook page as well. All right, that's it from me. Well, let me ask this. Does anybody have any comments they want to bring to the net about that? Please come now. No problem. Next up is Chaz. He has what you can see in the sky tonight, or as he likes to affectionately call it, and I agree. What's up? KFI-JHA, Chaz, you have the net.
Good evening, everyone. I hope this works out. I'm on Echo Link this evening. Thank you, Tom. Oh, apropos. I think you were looking for apropos. So this is Chaz, KFI-JHA. My degree is in astrophysics. I work at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this segment looking over the asteroids that are monitored with orbits close to the Earth. We have not had any approaches closer than the Moon over the last week, and have no predicted close approaches over the next month. I told you I'd be checking in on that on a regular basis. Remember, the place that I go to get this information and much more is spaceweather.com. Last week, I challenged you to look over for the star Canopus, which is low in the southern evening sky. Wednesday, it was clear enough for you to do that. Did any of you? If not, try one evening this week. Brookhaven College is going on spring break next week, along with several other schools and colleges and universities. So if the weather is clear and you have some extra time during spring break, get out and do some observing wherever you are. On March the 6th, the moon was at its new phase. And so tonight the moon is a thin, waxing crescent. I actually got to see it for a few minutes this evening in between. On Monday, March the 11th, the moon will be in conjunction with Mars. In other words, that means it's Mars. On Tuesday, March the 12th, from dark until its moonset, the moon will be in the middle of the Hyades star cluster. All right, a couple of weeks ago I talked about the moon blocking or occulting stars. Well, this is one of those times when the moon will be occulting the stars of the Hyades. The Hyades is the V-shaped group of stars that makes up the face of Taurus the Bull. Current weather forecast for our area on Tuesday evening is for rain, but if the forecast is wrong and it's clear, then go out on Tuesday night armed with a pair of binoculars or a telescope and watch the show stars of the Pleiades being occulted, covered and uncovered by the moon. Details of the occultations can be found by going to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org. Downloading the February issue of the newsletter. There's a button right on the main page to do that. And the newsletter is called The Spectrum. Beginning on page 28 of the February issue of The Spectrum, an article called What's Up? Does that sound familiar? can give you those occultation details. I personally know the author of the article, and he is really reliable about this kind of thing. The moon will be at its first quarter phase on March the 14th, and the moon is in conjunction with Regulus, the brightest star in the constellation of Leo. Might hear us think about that later on March the 18th. Remember in last week's Skynet, I talked about the Harvard and Morgan Canaan stellar classification system. Regulus's classification is a B75 or B7V. Regulus is what we call a main sequence star. There, it's a line on the HR diagram where about 80% of the stars reside and for about 80% of their lives. Regulus is bigger, brighter, and hotter than our sun. Regulus is also about 79 light years away in distance. In cosmic terms, it isn't just in our neighborhood, it resides on the same block. Okay, so back to the moon. On March 19th, the moon is at perigee, which is the distance of 359,381 kilometers. Remember, perigee is the point in an object's orbit when it is closest to the Earth. And on March the 20th, the moon will be full. Also on March the 20th, at 4:58 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the moment of vernal equinox will happen. We're on vernal equinox on next week's Skynet. In the early morning, southeastern morning sky, you'll be able to see around 6 a.m. a line of interesting things. We talked about this last week. From left to right, you'd see the bright planet Venus. Under normal conditions, Venus is the brightest thing other than the sun or the moon in the sky. To the upper right of Venus, you would see the much fainter planet Saturn. Then further to the upper right, you would see the planet Jupiter. And to the right of Jupiter, you'd see the bright star Antares. Antares is the brightest star in the constellation of Scorpius, the Scorpion. Antares is one of the biggest stars that you can see with your two eyes. Its stellar classification system is M1.5-1A. In other words, it's a red supergiant. So Antares is at the end of its lifetime. I plan to talk about stellar lifetimes in a future edition of Skynet. And finally, Antares is about 550 light years away. So, what are you doing tonight that we only do once a year? We change from standard time to daylight saving time. Yes, it's written and pronounced daylight saving time and not daylight savings time. Why do we do this crazy thing? We're actually on daylight time, daylight saving time, longer than standard time. So daylight time is really our standard time. Couldn't we just stay on one or the other and not change? Have I confused you yet? Well, when did this all start? I really don't want to leak my source, but according to Wiki, I hope you got the gist of that, George Hudson proposed this modern-day daylight time idea in 1895. There were other ideas before that time. The German Empire actually implemented it on April 30th, 1916. Daylight time because a large portion of the world population lived near and around the equator and the tropics, where variation of the amount of daylight course of the year is very small. When I lived in Seattle, which is located 47 degrees north latitude, I remember in late December going to work when it was dark. It got daylight around 9. It was getting dark. So I went to home in the dark. Some of you think I'm in the dark all of the time anyway. But, in contrast, at the end of June in 8 p.m. and morning twilight began around 1 a.m. Not much time for night observing during the summertime. So, why daylight saving time anyway? The idea goes like this. Individuals in industrial locations who follow a year-round schedule of commuting to work daily will awaken an hour earlier than they would have otherwise. They will begin and complete daily work routines an hour earlier, and they will have available to them an extra hour of daylight after their workday activities. However, there's one less hour of daylight at the start of each day, making the policy really impractical during the wintertime. But war does add a mix to this, so during World War I, daylight time was used to try to conserve coal. I'm not sure about how that worked, but someone figured it out. After World War I, daylight time was generally abandoned by most. Then World War II, daylight time came back and then went away again. Now, let's have an energy crisis in the 1970s. So, daylight time gets put in place, and now there's a hold on all of us. When to shift to daylight time has slightly changed over the years. Right now in North America, we make the change from standard time to daylight time on the second Sunday of March at 1 a.m. So we skip the hour from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. on that day. To remember, say the phrase, bring forward an hour. Daylight time happens tonight. Set your non-computer controlled clocks ahead by 1 hour before you go to bed. Now, on the first Sunday in November at 2 a.m., we go back to standard time by setting our clocks back an hour. So we remember this by using the phrase fall back an hour. This year, that will be on November the 3rd. There are some locations in the United States that don't move their clocks around. Arizona, Hawaii, Alaska, and maybe soon it could be Texas too. Currently, the state legislature of Texas has a bill in its 86th session that would be House Bill 34 days on daylight time year-round, permanently. If you like that idea, contact your state representative and state senator to vote yes on this bill. Okay, I've talked enough for a while. Do any of you out there on Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or just a general question on astronomy? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Okay, I haven't heard anything. So now, Tom, you will leave. Rumor has it that you will be lying a lot. Okay, this is Chaz, KF5JHA, and that's all for this week's Was Up. Back to net control, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz. Always interesting, and you always bring us so much good information about the sky and even stuff not about the sky. This is KE5ICX. I'm Net Control for tonight's Skynet. We're going to pause. I'm going to take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec, Delta, Quebec, Eric in Garland. This is Golf 5, Whiskey Sierra, Juliet, David, and East Dallas. Kilo 5, Whiskey, Tango Hotel, William Irving.
pick it up 3 more. 5 QDQ, Eric over in Garland. KG5WSJ, David, East Dallas. And K5WTH, Liam in Irving. And as I mentioned, I'm KE5ICX. Let's see, Miss Carolyn is out this week. We're hoping for a great recovery from her. I got to see her today. She's doing well and had family around, so she will be heading home here probably in the next week or so. So think of Miss Carolyn, KC50ZT. She would normally do this spot, so I'm going to do it for her. Hopefully I will be okay through all of this. So nice constellation, courtesy of Miss Carolyn, is Leo, the lion. And this is what she's written up about Leo. Leo is a zodiac constellation and one of the largest constellations in the night sky. It's the 12th largest in size. It represents the lion, usually associated with Nimen, lion, in Greek mythology. Leo was first cataloged by the Greek astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century, along with the other constellations of the zodiac. There are 2 meteor showers associated with the constellation. The Leonids usually peak on November 17th and 18th of every year and have a radiant near the bright star Gamma Leonis. The January Leonis are a minor shower that peaks between January 1st through 7th. Leo is one of the oldest constellations in the sky. Archaeological evidence suggests that Mesopotamians had a constellation similar to Leo as early as 4000 BC. The Persians knew the constellation of Seer. Babylonians called it Urgula, the Great Lion. Babylonians knew the star Regulus as the star that stands at the lion's breast, or the king star. Both the lion and the beast killed by Hercules during the first of his 12 labors. The lion lived in the cave of Nemea, southwest of Corinth. It was killing the local inhabitants and could not be killed because its skin could not be pierced by any weapons. Heracles could not kill the lion with arrows, so he trapped the lion in its cave, grappled with the beast, and eventually choked it to death. He used the lion's claws to cut off its pelt, and then wore the pelt as a cloak, complete with the lion's head. The cloak both protected Heracles and made him appear even more fearsome. In the sky, the 6 bright stars that form the shape of the sickle represent the lion's head, and the brightest star, Regulus, marks the beast's heart. Another star, bright star, Denobola, marks the tip of the lion's tail. By the way, if you go to w5fc.org, you'll find a link there, and there is the sky map as well as photographs. Or if you want to follow along on the video, I'm trying to do both that and do this. But you'll see here the constellation is up. So we have Regulus Alpha Leonis. It is the brightest star in the 22nd brightest star in the sky. It's a magnitude 1.35 and about 77 light years away. It is a 4-star system composed of 2 pairs of stars. Regulus A is a spectroscopic binary star, a B-type blue-white mean sequence star, and a companion star which cannot be resolved but is believed to be a white dwarf. The primary star of Regulus A is a younger star, only a few million years old, and is extremely fast rotator with a rotation period of only 15.9 hours. We're rotating 16% faster the centripetal force, or centripetal, I'll get that right, force provided by the star's gravity would not be enough to hold the star together. The 2 stars complete an orbit around their common center of mass every 40 days or so. Regulus B and Regulus C share a common proper motion. They are different main sequence stars, magnitudes 8.14 and 13. Regulus B is a K star, and the companion is believed to be a Class M star. The 2 stars are separated by about 100 astronomical units and have an orbital period of about 2,000 years. Regulus is the closest bright star to the ecliptic. Because it lies so close to it, it is regularly occulted by the moon and rarely by Mercury and Venus. The next star is Algebra, or Gamma Leonis. It is a double star composed of a giant star class K, magnitude 2.28, and is a dimmer companion star, spectral class G, with a magnitude of 3.51 magnitude. The two stars have an orbital period of 500 years, and the planet was discovered in orbit of the primary star in 2009. The Gamma Leonis system has a combined magnitude of 1.98 and is easy to observe in a small telescope under good conditions, and appears as a bright double star with an orange-red and greenish-yellow component. Next is R Leonis, which is a giant red star. It is type N, and it varies from a magnitude 4.4 to 11.3 magnitude with a period of 312 days, and is a Mira variable. These are pulsating variable stars in the late stage of evolution, very red in color and with pulsation periods longer than 100 days. They eventually expel their outer envelopes to form planetary nebulae and become white dwarfs within a few million years. At its brightest, R Leonis can be seen without binoculars, and at its dimmest, you need at least a 7-centimeter telescope to see the star. Right, now on to the deep sky objects. Leo has some recognized groups of galaxies, the Leo 1 and Leo 2 groups, and the Leo triplet, which includes Messier 6566 and NGC 3628. M95 is a barred spiral galaxy, and M95 stands for, let me get this right, stands boldly face on, offering an ideal view of its spiral structure. The spiral arms form an almost perfect circle around the galactic center before they spread out, creating a mane-like effect of which any lion would be proud. Another even more striking feature of M95 is its blazing golden core. It continues a nuclear star-forming ring almost 2,000 light-years across, where a large proportion of the galaxy's star formation takes place. It is in a magnitude 11.4 and belongs to the M96 group of galaxies, which also includes M96 and M105, and at least 9 other galaxies. A supernova was observed in M95 in 2012. Next up is M96, and that is an intermediate spiral galaxy and is the largest galaxy of the Leo 1 group of galaxies. A double-barred spiral with a small inner bulge through the center along with an outer bulge. It is magnitude at 10.1 and is the brightest galaxy in the M96 group. Ultraviolet emissions from the central region suggest that it has a supermassive black hole at its core. A-type 1, I should know this, IA-1A supernova was discovered in M96 in May of 1998. Next up is M105. M105 is an ecliptical galaxy, magnitude 10.2, and is known to have a supermassive black hole at its center as well. And let's see, 29, we got NGC 2903. Now this is part 1 of 2, so there will be additional info next week. But our next one is 2903. I'm looking for a picture. I do have a picture of it right here. Hold on. And here it is. It is a barred spiral galaxy, NGC 2903. It is a magnitude 9.7 and was discovered by William Herschel in 1784. That's all I have for this evening. There will be a part 2. I've got additional photographs here, but I think maybe I didn't get to all of them or I missed a few. So maybe we'll catch up next week, and I'll try and put the rest of them up. There are links to all of the objects that were mentioned this evening at w5fc.org. Just look for the Skynet information and then open the article and look down. You'll find all the links there. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Next up, we have Miss Brenda, WB5OZL. You have a couple of articles from Science Daily. Both of them look very interesting. So you have the net, WB5OZL from KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. This is WB5OZL. First article is entitled, What Does the Milky Way Weigh? Hubble and Gaia investigate. We can't put the whole Milky Way on a scale, but astronomers have been able to come up with one of the most accurate measurements yet of our galaxy's mass using NASA's Hubble Space Telescope and the European Space Agency's Gaia satellite. The Milky Way weighs in at about 1.5 trillion solar masses. One solar mass is the mass of our sun, according to the latest measurements. Only a few percent of this is contributed by the approximately 200 billion stars of the Milky Way and includes a 4 million solar mass supermassive black hole at the center. Most of the rest of the mass is locked up in dark matter, an invisible and mysterious substance that acts like scaffolding throughout the universe and keeps the stars in their galaxies. Earlier research dating back several decades used a variety of observational techniques that provided estimates of our galaxy's mass ranging from 500 billion to 3 trillion solar masses. The improved measurement is near the middle of this range. We want to know the mass of the Milky Way more accurately, so we can put it into a cosmological context and compare it to simulations of galaxies in the evolving universe, said Roland Binder Morell of the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, Maryland. Not knowing the precise mass of the Milky Way presents a problem for a lot of cosmological questions. The new mass estimate puts our galaxy on the beefier side compared to other galaxies in the universe. The lightest galaxies are around 1 billion solar, while the heaviest are 30 trillion, or 30,000 times more massive. The Milky Way's mass of 1.5 trillion solar masses is fairly normal for a galaxy of its brightness. Astronomers used Hubble and Gaia to measure the three-dimensional movement of globular star clusters, isolated spherical islands, each containing hundreds of thousands of stars, each that orbit the center of our galaxy. Although we can't see it, dark matter is the dominant form of matter in the universe, and it can be weighed through its influence on visible objects like the globular clusters. The more massive a galaxy, the faster its globular clusters move under the pull of gravity. Most previous measurements have been along the line of sight to globular clusters. So astronomers know the speed at which a globular cluster is approaching or receding from Earth. However, Hubble and Gaia record the sideways motion of the globular clusters, from which a more reliable speed and therefore gravitational acceleration can be calculated. The Hubble and Gaia observations are complementary. Gaia was exclusively designed to create a precise three-dimensional map of astronomical objects throughout the Milky Way and track their motions. It made exacting all sky measurements that include many globular clusters. Hubble has a view, but it can measure fainter stars and therefore reach more distant clusters. The new study augmented Gaia measurements for 34 globular clusters out to 65,000 light years, with Hubble measurements of 12 clusters out to 130,000 light years that were obtained from images taken over a 10-year period. When Gaia and Hubble measurements are combined as anchor points, like pins on a map, astronomers can estimate the distribution of the Milky Way's mass out to nearly 1 million light years from Earth. We know from cosmological simulations what the distribution of mass in the galaxy should look like, so we can calculate how accurate this extrapolation is for the Milky Way, said Laura Watkins of the European Southern Observatory in Garching, Germany, lead author of the combined Hubble and Gaia study to be published in the Astrophysical Journal. These calculations, based on the precise measurements of globular cluster motion from Gaia and Hubble, enable the researchers to pin down the mass of the entire Milky Way. The earliest homesteaders of the Milky Way, globular clusters, contain the oldest known stars, dating back to a few hundred million years after the Big Bang, the event that created the universe. They formed prior to the construction of the Milky Way spiral disk, where our sun and solar system reside. Because of their great distances, globular star clusters are some of the best tracers astronomers have to measure the mass of the vast envelope of dark matter surrounding our galaxy far beyond the spiral disk of stars, said Tony Sohn of STSCL, who led the Hubble measurements. The international team of astronomers in this study are Laura Watkins, Roland Vandermerel, and John Hopkins, and Sangmo Tony Sohn. The Hubble Space Telescope is a project of international cooperation between NASA and ESA. NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, manages the telescope. The Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, Maryland, conducts Hubble Science Operations. STSCL is operated for NASA by the Association of Universities for Research in Astronomy in Washington, D.C. Okay, the next article is entitled New Surprises from Jupiter and Saturn. Saturn from Jupiter. Cassini missions challenge theories of planetary formation. The detailed magnetic and gravity data have been invaluable, but also confounding, said David Stevenson from Caltech, who will present an update of both missions this week at the 2019 American Physical Society March meeting in Boston. Although there are puzzles yet to be explained, this is already clarifying some of our ideas about how planets form, how they make magnetic fields, and how the winds blow, Stevenson said. Cassini orbited Saturn for 13 years before its dramatic final dive into the planet's interior in 2017, while Juno has been orbiting Jupiter for 2.5 years. Juno's success as a mission to Jupiter is a tribute to innovative design. Its instruments are powered by solar energy alone and protected so as to withstand the fierce radiation environment. Stevenson says the inclusion of a microwave sensor on Juno was a good decision. Using microwaves to figure out the deep atmosphere was the right but unconventional choice, he said. The microwave data have surprised the scientists, in particular by showing that the atmosphere is evenly mixed, something conventional theories did not predict. Any explanation for this has to be unorthodox, Stevenson said. Researchers are exploring weather events, concentrating significant amounts of ice, liquids, and gas in different parts of the atmosphere as possible explanations, but the matter is far from sealed. Other instruments on board Juno, gravity and magnetic sensors, have also sent back perplexing data. The magnetic field has spots, regions of anomalously high or low magnetic field, and also a striking difference between the northern and southern hemispheres. It's unlike anything we've seen before, Stevenson said. The gravity data have confirmed that in the midst of Jupiter, which is at least 90% hydrogen and helium by mass, there are heavier elements amounting to more than 10 times the mass of Earth. However, they are not concentrated in a core, but are mixed in with the hydrogen above, most of which is in the form of a metallic liquid. The data has provided rich information about the outer parts of both Jupiter and Saturn. The abundance of heavier elements in these regions is still uncertain, but the outer layers play a larger than expected role in the generation of the two planets' magnetic fields. Experiments mimicking the gas planet pressures and temperatures are now needed to help scientists understand the processes that are going on. For Stevenson, who has studied gas giants for 40 years, the puzzles are the hallmark of a good question. A successful mission is one that surprises us. Science would be boring if it merely confirmed what we previously thought, he said. Okay, that's it. That's both from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net. This is WB5OZL.
This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. All right, let's go ahead and continue on. Tony, NT5TM, what do you have for us for space exploration and space history?
It's been a busy week in both the modern world and in history. Of course, our famous, most prominent piece of space exploration news this week has been the return of the Crew Dragon 2. The Dragon 2 demonstration mission 1 returned successfully to Earth. On Friday morning, SpaceX's capsule successfully splashed out in the Atlantic Ocean after spending almost a week at the ISS. The first test flight of the Crew Dragon is now at an end. It has been proven that it can survive the terrors of re-entry and the rigors of launch. It's a big leap forward in the quest to put people on the Dragon. The most cute piece of news about that is that the ISS crew will keep the little plush Earth that they have been playing with, at least until demonstration mission 2. More challenging news, the HP-3, the self-hammering nail, also known as the mole on the Mars InSight lander, seems to have been stuck. After several hours of hammering for its first work session, about 4,000 hammer blows over 4 hours, it did not make its expected progress. It pushed at least one rock aside, but it may have struck a second rock, and it is now off vertical. It might only be 18 centimeters below the surface. This is a device designed to penetrate below the surface of Mars to measure the rate at which heat escapes the subsurface of the planet. This is very important. We want to know such things as well. Does Mars still have a geologically active mantle core? And measuring the rate of heat transfer will help answer that question if only we can burrow under the surface. I'd like to encourage everyone to have a look at the links at w5fc.org. I know Tom tries to keep the video feed updated, and he posts a lot of links. I have to go through things very quickly, just as Brenda and others do. So there's always more things to look up and more learn at w5fc.org. We did have some great space-related birthdays this week. On March 5th, 1921, Jerry Cobb was born. She was a very successful American pilot, the holder of 4 separate aviation records, including the Harmon Trophy, and she was one of the Mercury 13, the astronaut candidates who were picked not by NASA, but by aeromedical doctors to show that women could pass all the same physical qualifications that men did. She and her comrades, such as Wally Funk, helped lead indirectly to the flight of the first female astronaut. When Soviet dignitaries visited the U.S. and learned that a group of American astronauts was in training and they were all women, they realized that the Soviet Union would have to work hard to get there first. And that led to the first flight of Valentina Vladimirovna Tereshkova. She was born on March 6, 1937, so she's one of our birthdays for this week. She was a cosmonaut, engineer, and a current Russian politician. She's the first woman to have flown in space, having been selected from hundreds of applicants and 5 finalists. She was selected in large part for 3 reasons. She was considered very intelligent. She was very small. The capsule was not very big. And she had a lot of experience with parachuting. She was an expert parachutist. In an early Soviet space capsules, the cosmonaut was ejected from the capsule before landing. Cooper didn't eject from his capsule, although he shares a birthday with Tereshkova. He was born on March 6, 1922. Leroy Gordo Cooper was an American test pilot, engineer, Air Force officer, and the youngest of the Mercury 7. A pilot as a child, he flew in the Second World War, as well as in the years after the war. He became a test pilot in 1956 and an astronaut in 1959. He flew the longest and last Mercury space flight, Mercury Atlas 9. He was the last American to go into space alone. He was the first person to sleep in space that we know of. And despite some pretty serious equipment failures, which led to a reentry that was rather off target, he did make a successful splashdown of his spacecraft, Faith 7. He also was the command pilot of Gemini 5 in 1965, along with Pete Conrad, and they set a new space endurance record. The motto of Gemini 5 was 8 days or bust. They flew over 3 million miles in 191 hours, just a few minutes under 8 days, showing that astronauts could survive the length of a moon trip and back. It's a great week for space birthdays because not only do we have Gordo and Valentina, but we have Yuri. Yes, Yuri Gagarin was born on March 9th, 1934. Yuri's night isn't until April 12th, but this week marks his birthday. He was, of course, a pilot and cosmonaut, the first human to travel into outer space in Vostok 1 on April 12th, 1961. He was an international celebrity with many medals and titles. Because of his fame, the Soviet government was determined to keep him from flying again, but eventually agreed to let him requalify for flight. Unfortunately, that led to his death in 1968 in a training accident. The MiG-15 he was flying crashed, probably because another plane traveling at over Mach 1 passed much too close to his. Much like Tereshkova, Gagarin had a secret advantage. Although handsome and intelligent and popular, he was only 5 feet 2 inches tall, and as I mentioned, that Vostok capsule was very small. Well, it's, of course, a busy week in space history. I'll go through these items pretty quickly. There's a lot you can learn from W5FC.org. On March 2nd, 1972, Pioneer 10 was launched. Along with Pioneer 11, Voyager 1 and 2, and New Horizons, it's one of the 5 vehicles that are on an escape trajectory from the space solar system. It was the first vehicle to... Hold on. Sorry about that. It was the first vehicle to successfully traverse the asteroid belt and the first to make a close approach of Jupiter. Returned about 500 images from December 4th, 1973, and carefully measured the outrageously strong radiation fields around Jupiter. Without these measurements, Voyager would probably have failed because a more sensitive, more modern space probe would have been cooked. without knowing where to travel and how to avoid the radiation belts. Radio communications were lost with Pioneer 10 on January 23rd, 2003. Quite a long mission because of the loss of electric power. March 3rd, 1969, Apollo 9 was launched. Apollo 9 was the third crewed mission in the United States Apollo program. It was the second to ride into orbit on the Saturn V, and the first test that combined both a command and service module, the CSM, with the lunar module, the LM. James McDivitt, David Scott, and Rusty Schweikert spent 10 days in low Earth orbit testing lots of things that were critical to the later moon flight, including the LM's engine, the backpack light support systems, navigation techniques, and docking. This was the very first docking and transposition, that complicated maneuver when Apollo had to pull away from the Saturn V, turn around, and get the lunar module out of its garage. Apollo 9 showed the lunar module was worthy of crewed spaceflight and ready to go on to the moon. They returned to the Earth on March 13th, 1969, and Apollo was go full speed ahead. March 3rd, 1959, Pioneer 4 was launched. This was an American unmanned spacecraft launched as part of the early Pioneer program. They reused that name. There were the awesome probes like Pioneer 10 and 11 and the really cool 6, 7, 8, 9 Pioneer, those were Mariners, solar observatories. But the early Pioneers were attempts to reach the moon, to ram into it, and they mostly failed. Pioneer 4 was the most successful of them. It did not come close enough to the moon to take pictures, but it did at least not crash into the ocean. It flew past the moon and measured its radiation environment as well as various charged particles from the sun. We would not do any better than that until Ranger 4 hit the moon in 1964. Space was hard, and early space probes, didn't do very well. March 5th, 1979, Voyager 1, one of the most successful space probes ever, made its closest approach to Jupiter. It was launched way back in 1977 on September 5th. It was part of the Voyager program, and it was launched after Voyager 2. They were launched out of order. Voyager 1 and 2 are still communicating regularly via the Deep Space Network to report their findings about interstellar space to Earth. NT5TM. Probably the most exciting thing about this close flyby of Jupiter was the discovery of active volcanoes on the moon, Io. They actually saw plumes of gas shooting off into space from these giant volcanoes. This was the first time active volcanoes have been seen on any other body in the solar system. March 8th, 2004, a little piece of astronomical art was made. The Spirit Mars rover took a picture of the Earth. This was the first picture of Earth ever taken from the surface of another planet. Spirit pointed its cameras toward the sky and it watched a transit across the sun by Mars's tiny moon Deimos, and then it followed up in March of the same year with a picture of Earth. Earth is just a pale blue dot in a hazy sky. But it was pretty exciting. NASA likes to put a little caption on that picture that says, "You are here." Finally, I'll mention just one more space flight. On March 9th, 2011, the last mission of the Shuttle Discovery came to an end. STS-133 was the 133rd mission of the Space Shuttle program, go figure, during which Discovery docked with the ISS, and it was Discovery's 39th mission. It had launched earlier on February 24th, 2011. The crew was 6 American astronauts, all of whom had been on previous space flights, and it was commanded by Stephen Lindsay. The crew joined the long-duration 6-person crew of ISX Expedition 26, who were already aboard the space station, and one of the original crew members had to be pulled off. He was injured while bicycling. Astronauts, bicycles are dangerous. He was replaced by Stephen Bowen. had been delayed several times. Probably its most unusual piece of cargo to the ISS was a humanoid robot called Robonaut. It could be clamped to various things. Obviously, not all of them are on the ISS. NASA had designed adapters where it could attach to a moon rover or a Mars rover, or be clamped into the ISS in all kinds of attitudes. It was meant to help astronauts with various routine tasks. Here, Robonaut, hold this. No further flights of Robonaut have taken place, but we never know. They've got a cool little cute plushy Earth. Maybe a future Dragon will carry a robotic astronaut in a surplus seat. This is NT5TM. Thank you for listening. Some great space birthdays and great space history news.
Thank you, Tony, and great job. Lots to celebrate this week. This is KE5ICS. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. I'm going to take final check-ins. If you're listening and like to make yourself known, please come now with your call sign name. Let me know where you're transmitting from.
Charlie 5, Foxtrot Alpha Zulu, Sean and Fort Worth.
Okay, hey Sean, KC5FAZ over in Fort Worth. I've got you checked in. There was a rather nasty comment over on the chat window elsewhere from one of my CONET controls. It's not true. Not true at all. All right, I'm going to skip tonight's satellite passes only because I'm tired of talking this evening, and I'll give us a few extra minutes for Afterglow Movie Net. Let me skip ahead here. Tonight we had 23 check-ins, counting myself. Thanks to all who checked in. Hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations. That could be you. And for all the other DARC nets, that could be you. If you'd like to try your hand at that can be you. Contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets, N-E-T-S, at W5FC.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general and on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources. Did I say that enough times, Internet? By going to W5FC.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom. I'll be closing the net at 22:25 local time, just a little early. I'm going to need it. This is a long night. So 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. Come back in 5 minutes, 10:30 on the dot, and we'll be discussing the fine film Moon Trap, Target Earth. See you then. I'm clear.
normal state. Completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly. Hello, movie.
This is KE5IZX. I get to be net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Sigh. Alright, first thing we do is give a synopsis of the film. This is going to be difficult to do. I usually go to my favorite wiki links, and they usually have a great dissertation on it. The original movie has a long dissertation, which doesn't make any sense, and the sequel, which really isn't a direct sequel, it is Moontrap in name only and bad special effects, but it is here. So I'm going to give you at least a little bit of information here. Here's the plot summary, which is exactly 2 sentences. An ancient spaceship is discovered on Earth, left behind by an advanced human civilization. A young woman studying the ship suddenly finds herself transported to the moon to confront machines that guard secrets. It stars Sarah Butler, Damon Dayu, Charles Shaughnessy, Carla Ann Marie Stephen Sutton, Nikki Spendricatos, Chris Newman, Jennifer Kinzer, directed by Robert Dyke, who did everything from the music to feeding the cast. Movie says it has like 3 different dates, 2015 through 2017. You picked the time when they were serious enough to release the movie. It also says here on the Internet Movie Database, a long-forgotten ancient spacecraft is discovered on Earth. Investigations carried out by Scout, that's the female protagonist in this film, transport her to the moon, whereupon she meets an impressive machine preserving the wisdom of the long-lost civilization. I don't have a lot to give you on this, except maybe, we'll talk about it and take notes and then discuss, which is what this is all about. This is KE5ICX. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins now. If you would like to check in, by all means, whether you saw the movie or not, it doesn't matter, or even if you saw Moontrap from 1989, I know cast members from that fine film, and I won't even review it. So, we'll start with anyone who would like to join us this evening. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see this fine film, Moontrap, Target Earth?
This is N5BB. Yes, I saw it.
Oh, this is not good. All right, I've got Bill, N5BB. Do I have any additional check-ins?
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Brill in Dallas. I did see the movie.
See this movie.
T5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Yes, I saw that which cannot be unseen.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J, I saw it.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy, yes, I saw it.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike November, James, I saw the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman, yes, I saw the film.
All right, I have additional check-ins. I got KFI, TSK, Burrow, yeah, you saw it. WV5OZL, Miss Brenda, yes, you saw it. W5EVB, David, yep. KG5BZWJ, yep. KG5PMN, James, yep. KF5BDS, Miss Billy, yep. Any additional check-ins who saw the movie? Moontrap, Target Earth, please come now.
Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville. Mayflower, Maryland.
I got also KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn. I think you said you saw it. If you didn't, that's okay. I'll come back to you in a little bit. All right, let's get started. The way this thing works is, as it always does, you have to ask yourself, why did I watch this movie? You know that's one of the things you always have to do. The other part is that will you admit to others that you saw the movie? And then finally, do you have any useful comments that will help the director and people to encourage them to make future movies, or do you want to tell them, no, this is not a good idea, go back into what you were doing before, selling vape items at a local cigarette store? All right, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about plot. So, Bill, N5BB, and you're first. Go ahead. What did you think of plot?
Oh, this is N5BB. I would say be really careful when Nicole is getting ready to smoke a cigarette, because she is in a bad mood before she's had that nicotine. She does all kinds of nasty stuff. Well, number one, the plot had absolutely zero to do with the Moontrap movie that was made back in the 80s, as far as I can tell. I did not see the other movie, but I've seen some clips, and it's totally different. It doesn't look anything like it. It has something to do with the moon. That's the only thing that's similar, really. So the director just wanted to make another moon movie. And they were going to make a movie about Mars, but they ran out of interest, so they made it about the moon. I did not understand the plot, the whole picture. I mean, the whole underlying plot. Were they aliens trying to repopulate the Earth? I didn't really understand that. And I really didn't understand the moon being terraformed in a couple of minutes. That made absolutely no sense. And the gravity is very low. The atmosphere wouldn't be there. It would be a horrendous storm on the moon. It wouldn't be so nice. And where do those clouds come from? There's no water on the moon. Where was all the water? Where was all the energy to create all that stuff? Nobody says. Where did that spacecraft come from? Nobody says. Why were there hieroglyphics on it? I mean, was it some alien thing? Not obvious to me exactly. They didn't really explain any of that. The creature they called God or whatever. What was the deal at the end where he and Sarah Butler and what was her name? Sharon Scout? Where they got lined up with these colored lights around them. What was happening after that? Nobody knows. So they had some special effects. They had a lot of gratuitous nudity. They had a whole lot of swear words. It wasn't even made for TV. It was made for Sony Entertainment to be released. What can we say? Mr. Shaughnessy was a bad guy, along with his henchwoman, Nicole. I don't know. They threw a bunch of stuff together. I don't believe it as being very realistic or even meeting a normal science fiction plot, if you ask me. but I guess it was engaging while it was on the screen. It was pretty. Inside BB.
All right, very good, Bill. You asked more questions than were solved through the film, so maybe everyone else has an answer to all of this. What does it all mean? And I know who does have the answer to all that. KFITSK Burl. Your thoughts about the pilot, and can you explain to Bill the essence of this film? Go ahead.
This is KFITSK. No, I can't explain anything in the film, you know. People get killed, and suddenly they just go away, or they're burned up, and, you know, no one asks any questions. You know, it's like, you know, just believe where we're taking you. And in the end, what does it all mean? You know, if they just wanted to start a colony on the moon, they could have done it without coming to Earth. Nothing in the whole film, you know, really makes sense. It's kind of a mystery that really doesn't end. KFITSK back to net.
I thought the hieroglyphics pretty much explained it all, but what do I know? Next up, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, can you answer Bill and Burl's question about what this movie is about? Please explain the plot.
This is WB5OZL. You have got to be kidding. What plot? This is just random acts. You know, let's just film some scenes and sew them together. Music wasn't unfortunate, but everything else was. I didn't get the point. They didn't explain anything, and there was just too many gratuitous deaths. And the only thing I'll say is there were some attractive people in this film. They were at least smartly watchable. Aside from that, I don't know. It's we should probably just make up our own story about it. Back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, that was pretty short. This is not looking good, and it's losing my voice. Let's see. Next up, W5EBB. David, help us, please. Plot. And this is KE5I6.
I was about to boycott this session of the net, but I liked y'all too much, so I wasn't going to do that. The quote-unquote plot is a hodgepodge of plot elements taken from other movies. Just a couple that come to mind: Prometheus, Stargate, 2001. But it's just all completely incoherent. You know, the plot sub-elements they get dropped, or it just doesn't flow. It was just a mess. It did not flow at all. Now, this might have looked good on storyboards and in the CGI mock-ups, but the storyboards are great, but it lacks that other thing, a story. Profanity, vulgarity, violence, blasphemy, that tends to be a winning combination for most of today's movies, but it didn't work for this particular one for some reason. And the movie is simply not worth the time to watch, nor is it worthy of the perspicuous, erudite, critical commentary of this net. W5EBB.
Oh my God, David, I've been looking up all those words, and it all adds up to you were less than thrilled. Okay, next up, KG5BZW, Jay near Weatherford. You saw the film. What did you think of the plot?
This is KG5BZW. Well, okay, I've been kind of pressing myself to try to find something good about this film. I think it started out all right. I mean, you know, not really. If you don't have high expectations, you might try to go. It kind of reminded me of some sci-fi series episode beginnings or something, but it just kept on getting. What can I say that hasn't already been said? It's just it. I'm really kind of surprised some of the actors, which I don't have the computer in front of me, so I don't have his actual name. But you know, Mr. Bad Guy, Control, he's got like an Irish or something name. I don't know. Anyway, guess he just had bad. Well, or the money was just available, and it's like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll be the bad guy. Yeah, this. It started out. Well, I can't even say it started out okay because they don't really explain from the beginning, like the assassination of the friend, which they don't even address, which is like the whole film. They keep on adding stuff that's never addressed. It's just, I'll be honest, that I thought last week's film was more entertaining. Actually, may have even been more coherent. This thing was just, I don't know, it's pretty. Literally, the only thing I can think about, I like about things about the film was, I guess, the people and I don't know, some of the cheesy effects were. I mean, it's funny because the effects weren't really that good either. Some of them were okay, I guess, but I gotta leave something for the next person. KG5BZW.
Thank you, Jay. You actually gave more information than they did in the actual movie. KG5PMN, James, you saw the movie. What did you think of the plot?
This is KG5PMN. The plot was not very much. I thought that it was a bunch of little subplots loosely thrown together to make a whole. And it was also the mad scientist trying to overcome the world, and the good guys went out at the end. But the bunch of the subplots just were dropped and never explained. What I got from the end of the movie was that when the woman finally got in the red curtain or whatever that thing was supposed to be, that they were going to actually have a sequel maybe later on, or multiple sequels, and trying to create a new world, which is kind of what was looked like hieroglyphs written into the rock. Don't creating a new world, don't mess it up, or something like that. KG5PMN, back to the net.
Thank you, James. This is KE5ICX Net Control. We're talking about the fine movie Moontrap Target Earth from either 2015, 16, or 17. It's not really clear. Next up is Miss Billy, KFI-PDS. You saw the movie. Help us explain this plot. You were really smart. Go ahead.
Well, Tom, I will give it a shot. So it looks like the lady Mia was trying to get to Garen, who appeared, I guess, to be her lover or partner, and trying to terraform the moon. And so she had the piece that needed to get there to make that machine happen, and she was not able to get to the moon to fulfill her part of the process. And so she selected Scout. Now, how she selected her, I have no idea. That part was not explained. To board the ship to get to the moon to fulfill that her piece that she didn't get to fulfill, and Scout did that. She activated the temple, which started the terraforming process, and then she fulfilled Mia's role by taking on her persona, basically wearing her outfit and everything, and fulfilling her part to stand beside him, I guess, in some kind of stasis until whoever could arrive to colonize. So it just looked to me like the ancient civilization was trying to colonize the moon, to terraform it. It didn't get done, and so therefore things got kind of ground to a halt. And then along comes Scout, and through dreams and imagery, she's able to connect with the ship and board it and get to the moon and fulfill the part that was unfulfilled. But where the other people are supposed to come from is, like, to me, it raises the question of, is it for the present day humans, for their future to eventually get to the moon, to colonize it? So she leaves the message on the wall there about the new world and not messing it up, to future humans who will come to the moon and set up a new world. So, or are there people from space coming? Was there a civilization that was trying to come from outer space? At first it seemed that way, but then it seemed like it was ancient, like, because they kept referencing chariots of the gods and things like that. But then they're like, no, it's from Earth's forgotten past. So was it an ancient Earth civilization that was trying to do this? So there's some definitely muddy there. And who was the weird, shadowy organization that was trying to stop them? Wish they would have explained that more. But yeah, I'm generally not opposed to being plopped down into the middle of an ongoing or already going story, as long as there's some kind of exposition to give you some grounding, and that never happened. And also I wondered, because she had kept having these dreams, these bad dreams of foreboding that Dr. Allen got killed, and then she woke up and he was there, but then she just left and went to the site by herself and went to the moon and said she was going to finish it like he was gone. It's like, well, was he still alive, or was he really dead? I mean, they kind of just left that in the air. So there was a lot of threads that were never tied up. And I do pretty well with understanding weird films. Like, I can get into and understand a David Lynch film, but the thing with David Lynch's films is he eventually ties things together. Even though it's done in a very strange way, things eventually make connections, and you feel a fulfillment. And with this, you don't feel any kind of fulfillment, really, unless they were planning a sequel and it just never came to fruition, which I could then understand. At least that, to me, would justify it in some way, of leaving it where they left it. So, to me, lots of subplots that were never fully expounded upon or tied together, parts that were just left wide open with no explanation. So it felt pretty... plots felt pretty full of holes. So anyway, that's what I got out of it. It was kind of meh. I didn't hate it, but also wasn't really jazzed about it. So it was just kind of lukewarm with me, just, tepid reaction. It's just kind of there. So it's like, I've watched it. I probably will never watch it again. This is KFI-PDS, back to net.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and you gave far more information about the movie. I have to admit, I actually fell asleep through part of it. can't imagine why. It was riveting, I guess. A great explanation. I appreciate it for what was there and the deficiencies that went along with it. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn. Hello. Did you get a chance to see this film? And if you did, you have to tell us what you thought about the plot. Go right ahead. KC5OZT from KE5ICX. All right, we may have lost her. She's over at the hospital, so she's probably got a lot of distractions going on. But she's out there. She may be listening, or she fell asleep like I did during the movie. All right, my opinion, boy, oh boy, I've got pretty weak comments after all of that. Everybody mentioned that this is like stringing a bunch of plots together. There's no doubt about it. We strung along Total Recall for one, and terraforming. We did 2001 with a triangular monolith, which turned out to be the vertical dorsal fin for a gigantic spaceship. But when you put it in the ground, the big spaceship in the ground, it's only the size of, some particle board or something. So that was very clever. I never would have guessed that there was a big giant spaceship underneath there, as well as the director thinking the same thing. Had 2001 in it with the, the monolith, only this time it's the triangular thing with the stuff on the hieroglyphs on the wall, which I think has been in every frickin' science fiction movie that takes place on Earth for ancient times, including, I don't know, Fifth Element would be the one that comes to mind. It had 2010 in it. What was that? I can't remember what 2010 was going to be. Oh, I don't remember. There was something, I wrote it down, and now I can't recall what it was. Independence Day, it's got a little bit of that with the guy flying the spacecraft. That was a part of it. So I don't have much to say beyond that. I think Miss Billy really came out with the best comments about what was going on and who all the characters were. There's always an evil guy that messes everything up. That's a requirement. But I think you should use your evil guys a little better than that. But that takes you to plot development. All right, I'll take additional check-ins if you'd like to say that you saw this film, or even if you didn't, you're just listening in and you'd like to tell us that you are. Please come now with your call sign name and let us know if you saw the movie or not. Any additional folks that have not checked in who would like to, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Zombies Need Jobs. Frank, I saw about 40 minutes of the movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa, it's Mike. I saw about 30 minutes of it.
Very good. I've got KG5ZNJ and KG5P. That's Frank and Mike. Now, realizing that there is a problem is a step towards solving the problem. So with that, even though you saw only 40 minutes, Frank, of this fine film, what did you think of the plot? And what made you stop watching this film? Because there was a spectacular ending. Go ahead, Frank.
Why, thank you, Tom. I'd be pleased to go ahead. This is KG5ZNJ. Well, understanding the plot is hard to do if you just use logic. You see, you have to decipher the emotional content of the plot to understand it. And I did that by looking at those hieroglyphs that were on that piece of drywall. I paused it, I looked at it really carefully, and I went through it a few times, and I did decipher it. And it said, it's crap. KG5ZNJ, back to you, Tom.
Thank Thank you, Frank. That's very, very helpful. And you know what? I'm going to go and order the Blu-ray edition right now just so that I can look at the hieroglyphics on that, because you could be right that, you know, the caca symbol is sometimes difficult to interpret, especially on standard def television. Next up, KG5P. Mike, you saw 30 minutes of the film. How far did you get before you turned it off and gave up? And what did you think of the overall plot?
Okay, Tom. Well, I got about as far as monolith, and then they went to some big, I don't know, Senate investigating committee or something like that. I mean, the dialogue was just so inane. And then the inscription on the side, the secret writing, that was caution, this movie will give you cancer of the eyeballs. I just found it unwatchable. I just couldn't handle it. So, but I'll see, you know, I'll listen to what y'all said about it, KG5P.
All right, thank you, Mike. I understand that not every movie is fit for human consumption, and this is probably one of them. I didn't think it was that bad, but it certainly wasn't that good either. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it about a 4. That may be being nice, I guess. I don't want to digress into something else. I thought that the music kept me interested. I will tell you this, there was the guy, Robert Dyke, who was the producer of this film and the original Moontrap. He actually got a credit from science fiction writer, what's his name, James McDevitt. I don't know who he is, but he is said to be the torchbearer for Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke. And he dedicated his novel Odyssey to the guy who wrote and directed this film. It says to Robert Dyke, the ultimate time traveler. I'm not sure what that means, except, I don't know, maybe they smoked a couple together. I don't know. Okay, well, we're going to go to the top of the list here. I don't know how long this one will go. We'll see, maybe a while. Oh, I did have a comment. I wrote it down. tvtropes.org. Now, I don't know about you, but if you wanted to generate a plot with a bunch of story twists, much like this film was done, go to tvtropes.org and select from this massive website all of the possible plot lines and ideas and story ideas that have been done a million times before. Just click on them, copy them, paste them into your own spiffy script with your own character names, and you will have a script as good or probably better than Moontrap Target Earth. All right, I'm going to the top of the list. I'm sorry, Bill, you're at the top. What did you think of characterization? Don't be shy.
This is N5BB. Well, not everybody that's here, but a lot of you, like you, Tom, some others, I just sent an email that's got 2 Pinterest collections from Tex Ragsdale. I wonder if he's from Texas. He's the guy who wrote the 1989 Moontrap and this later one, which he calls 2014, but it was evidently released in 2017. And on one of these Pinterest pages, it's Target Earth. And so you can see them making the film, and they're all smiling. They look happy. They look like they were being paid for their efforts or something. I don't know, a lot happier than we are looking at this thing. But anyway, I've also got another Pinterest collection for beautiful wrecks. It's old wrecks of cars and trucks and things. And these 2 Pinterest collections, along with his Twitter feed, are much more interesting than this movie. Much, much, much more interesting. Anyway, okay, so we're talking about characterization. Why did Scout have the dreams? What was her character dreaming about? That's central to the film and everything, and not explained at all. For a while, I couldn't tell if her lover buddy, what was his name? He got killed off. Brian? Yeah, Brian Carter. I couldn't tell if he was alive or dead because I thought she was dreaming about him dying, but then it looked like he really did die. So that was all just, I don't know, characterization was weird there. She seemed to not care about him the moment after he died. She kind of cried for a moment, and then she forgot about him. She just totally forgot about him. Character Brian Carter. That's the guy early on that found the thing and brought in the bad guys that he thought were from CNN. They killed him. But nobody else cared. Nobody else even knew about it. Like Brian and Scout acted like they just ignored the fact that he disappeared. Later, didn't Eli get killed also? That was the guy that was helping them do some things. They didn't seem to care there about the fact that that occurred. So again, the characterization is gratuitous killing and nobody cares. Nicole definitely had no care about anything except smoking. She loved a good cigarette. But, and there was no explanation for why she was killing those people so ruthlessly. What happened to the bodies? They just disappeared. And who did she and Richard Control work for? As Billy said, all the people that were on the railing up there in suits and everything, who were those people? They were some shadowy organization. They were going to fulfill their destiny and destroy. The craft must be destroyed. Why? They said the knowledge of the existence would affect their prime means of control. So it's kind of like they were in control of the Earth, the shadowy, organization, and knowledge of this existence of this would affect their control of the Earth. What the heck did that mean? Other characterization. Actresses talk about the fact that they only remove their clothes because there is some reason, some plot reason. What the heck was the reason for Scout to strip down? Richard Control suggested to her that he thought the robot wanted her to strip. Why? I don't know. Robot didn't say it, didn't act it out. All the robot did was drop this little flimsy piece of a dress down there, and from that, he figured out she was supposed to strip, including her socks. I don't know. Silly. Characterization. Richard Control was bad, evil. Why? No reason. No knowledge. Let's see. The robots. The good robot had red eyes. The bad robot it was red. The bad robot also, I think, had red eyes, but it was blue. And they shot lightning out from their eyes. No explanation. No explanation. Scientific, no explanation. Just completely none. Where do these robots come from? What powered them? Why were they doing? Why was the robot on the moon fighting the red robot? I don't know. Why did the robots fight? It's just like one of the previous movies. We had the old dinosaur-like creatures fighting. In this case, no. They throw in the robots fighting with light with bolts coming out of their eyes. Totally silly characterization of the robots. Let's see. We talked about the swearing. What else? I guess that's about for characterization. I don't know. Scout seemed to be doing something for some reason, but I don't know why. Wasn't really clear why she really wanted to. It's like there's some ulterior thing under the surface that something mysterious was directing her to do all this because of the dreams, maybe. But that wasn't made very clear. That's all I got in 5BB.
Thank you, Bill. I think those are all good points. I'm not sure what to say. Of course, I fell asleep through part of it, but I'll save my comments for the end in case nothing's brought up. But my thoughts about the movie, which I think they will be. KFITSK, Burl, your comments on characterization. This is KE5ICX.
K5TSK. Well, I looked at the situation with the red robot versus the blue robot, and they were, essentially, built the same. I couldn't understand why they maybe didn't like one another, or was maybe defending themselves from the other one. I suppose nothing in the film really made any sense in terms of, where everything was going. After Scout put this particular place in the monument, and the this building arose from the fall of the moon. What was that supposed to mean? Her taking her place beside the guy that was in the structure. He was in the blue, I guess, lights, and she was in the red lights. What did it mean? I mean, was it mind control over Scout? Of course the graphics were good, but it wasn't, the longest movie, but in a way it was entertaining, but even Scout to herself, it's like, that's an ancient moon suit. Why am I going to put it on? And it's like, you're going to put it on. K5TSK back to that.
Okay, if you say so, Burl, we'll see what others say and what they have to say so for. WB5OZL. Brenda, do you agree with Burl, or do you think he's wrong? What do you think about characterization? And is Bill okay with what he said? Brenda, you're up. It's the B list. Go ahead.
No pressure. This is WB5OZL. Well, the thing that makes a movie watchable is that the characters are well developed, they're sympathetic, you understand them, you're rooting for them, and this is a collection of people you just don't care about much. And what was some of it? They're so they're just so one-dimensional. Here's this woman, she just likes to kill people. You know, what's up with that? What kind of person is that? You just don't normally see that in movies. And Richard was just so nasty, so much more so than he needed to be. How did he get this far in life if he can't, if he's just ugly to everybody? And, he wouldn't have any friends. And his shadow group, we don't explain what they're doing or anything about them. And it's just, the whole thing is just shallow. The people are shallow, and they seem to change. They seem to develop in ways you don't expect. Like Scout, like so many things, she just, her boyfriend died, and she just really moved on real fast. And it's just, it's just a shadow of a movie. There's just no characterization, and we don't care about the people. And you kind of hope they all die, and about half of them do, so that's a good thing. But it's put along with there just being no story, essentially, made for it's a pretty bad movie. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay, let's see. Next up is David, W5EBB. Your thoughts about the characterization from KE5I6.
As a follow-up to Zombies Need Jobs comment, I also tried translating the drywall hieroglyphics. I used a Bubba Hotep Redneck Hieroglyphics Universal Translator. The closest I came up with was peanut butter banana sandwich. The characters, I like the Rock'em Sock'em robots. And just like the toy I had as a kid, the blue one's head is a lot harder to pop off than the red one's. But that scene, it also reminded me of another movie, when the blue robot merged with the head of Mr. Richard Contral's Control. It kind of smacks of the Saturn III robot merging with Harvey Keitel. Just more borrowing from other movies. I think the Council of 13 was believably and realistically portrayed. Maybe they're the ones who funded this movie. I don't know. W5EBB.
Right, thank you, David. Interesting. And you're right, as Saturn III, I forgot to put on the list. But thank you for reminding me. KG5BZW, Jay near Rutherford. What did you think of the characterization?
This is KG5BZW. Well, yeah, yeah. But I don't know. Was there a single person, other than, changes to characters, well, other than, like dying and all, what really happened? Not really, as Brenda said, there really wasn't that much background or anything on plot, on the characters given, so you can't really say how much they changed or anything, because everything is just so loosely glued together. So I almost have to go to like inanimate objects, and all right. Hey, the moon changed. Is the moon a character? No, not really. It did change, although I don't know how plants are going to endure, having 16-day or how many days. I don't know how many days a moon day is, but it's a whole lot compared to Earth Day. Anyway, yeah, there's yeah, they actually had some interesting the background characters apparently now that I've heard Billy give the exposition as to actually what actually happens, and I apparently totally missed it all. I'd be curious to know about the background characters, and they should have done maybe a third of the movie explaining that, and it might be kind of interesting just to develop a little mythology, but they didn't do jack. I hated the assassin. She was the worst assassin imaginable. The contrail troll, whatever, is just, I don't know, maybe the best character, but still bad and not really, just, I don't know. And we've already talked about Scout and all, but, I have nothing else. KG5BGW.
Jay, and I want to tell everybody, just to let you know, while you think you're coming up empty with explanations and trying to bring sense to this movie, you've done more for this movie than the producer and director and writer, who are all the same guy, I think, could have ever imagined. So feel proud. Stand tall. KG5PMN, James, your thoughts on characterization?
This is KG5PM James. The characterization. Thought like everybody else that everything was kind of on the thin side, but I thought the Scout character was kind of always on the pushy side, and when her boyfriend and they had gotten before the council, he was trying to say, "Oh well, things are over," and she kept trying to push him and keep going further and further with him until he finally just gave up on it and walked out. The other thing is the characters. I think thought that the alien played a lot into part of the characters. The robots kind of looked like to me like the alien and the aliens, and then when the mad professor or mad scientist or whoever he was got caught in the door, that reminded me of when Ash, I think it was Dr. Ash, wound up on the floor after getting broken up in Alien, and he's sitting there gurgling and bubbling and saying something. I don't remember what he said now, but send it back to the net, KG5PMN.
Thank you, James, and you did okay. When you come up empty, you just go, okay, that's it. After you make comments, because you're trying to draw out more when there is no more. But let's continue. The grand experiment. Can you give comments about characterization in this film? This is the greatest challenge ever. KF5PDS. Miss Billy, what did you think of characterization?
No, I agree with what's been said. You know, the characters were shallow, no development, no exposition. I wish they had gone into some backstory, more of the ancient civilization. That would have done this film a world of good, and explained things a little bit more. Yeah, I thought the dialogue was pretty cheesy, and it was hard to push through to watch the whole film. But I'm glad I finished it. I always like to see our films through to the end, because you never know, sometimes they get better, but I thought it did get more interesting when they got to the moon, and yeah, the Rock'em Sock'em robots too, I totally saw that along with David, but I think the blue robot was maybe trying to protect, its master, who was in stasis, and he was there to guard at all costs, because that thing tried to damage the spaceship by shooting its lightning eyes into some vent or something, and the red robot vented and it blew that robot back. So I think that made it hostile towards that robot, and so when they got face to face, it wanted to destroy that robot. So it could have just been like it was in super high protection mode, but that again, that wasn't explained. And then just at the end, it just kind of leaves you hanging. So yeah, I didn't see any. And why did Scout want to be called Scout? I never understood that. So other than that, I really can't think of anything else. So I'll throw it back to you. This is KFI-PDS, back to net.
Very good. Yeah, well, yes, motivation is not real motivating here when it came to the characterization. All right, second round. Let me see if Miss Carolyn's there. KC5OZT. Do you have any comments on this fine film, Moon Trap, Target Earth, even though they ended up on the moon? If you're there, Miss Carolyn, go ahead with any comments you have for tonight. Okay, I think we lost her for the evening. She's still online there, but I think she's gone into La La Land with a better script. Let's see, KG5ZNJ, Zombies Need Jobs. Frank, do you have anything you want to, bits of wisdom you would like to give us about the characterization, even though you only saw 40 minutes of the film? I think you saw the characters, so tell us, what did you think of them?
This is KG5ZNJ. Well, like you said, I didn't see very much of them, but I could group them all together and describe them as odious, vulgar, uncouth, and pedestrian for a start. I would say that the assassin chick that I saw, I don't know, I mean, just not very convincing when she garroted the first guy at the very beginning. I mean, there was so little effort put into it. Anybody could have just reached to the side and grabbed her wrists and stopped her, and he just immediately turned off. It didn't even die. He just turned off. So, that was just a terrible character, and I don't know. It was a debacle. I can't. KG5ZNJ, back to you there, Tom.
Pedestrian. Okay. Well, everybody had feet, so yeah, they were pedestrian. And there were no vehicles that I saw. Any cars? Well, there was that thing at the beginning when they went to go look at the dorsal fin of the spacecraft. There was a car that stopped. Okay. Next is KG5P. Mike, you spent more time with us than the entire movie. Any comments on characterization? Maybe there was a character that you went, that's it. I'm tired of watching this film. I've seen crappier movies that I've enjoyed more with better characterizations. I'm just throwing that out to you to see if you chew at it. What do you think of characterizations, Mike?
Well, I think where I pulled the plug on it was when they killed off the boyfriend. Obviously, he was an important character, but then they killed him off, so that's typically, those guys are the ones that usually want them to survive at the end. That's about it, Tom. I've enjoyed everybody's comments, but I have nothing else to add. Back to that KG5P.
Right, that's okay, Mike. I compliment you for going 2 rounds on this film after only seeing 30 minutes of the film. You did more for it than they ever did for you. So consider yourself worthy this evening. I had problems with it. I don't have a lot to add to it myself. As far as characterization, I found them all rather two-dimensional or pedestrian, as Frank calls them. I would agree. Mostly walk through the entire film. My favorite character was Richard Contral, who sort of sounds like control because he was controlling. So if you're dyslexic, you can get control out of Contral. He was mildly entertaining. I liked him. It didn't make any sense that he did a Dr. Smith. He was going to go and take the spacecraft back to Earth. How you do that with all of the mechanics that go along with it and do controls that you hold with your hands, I don't know. Like from this island to Earth, it's just next door. You get to Ice Station Zebra or whatever the hell that place was. All you have to do is point the spacecraft back to Earth and you're there. But as a character, he was pretty good. He also has kind of an interesting resume along the way, just as a sidelight. Lots and lots and lots of credits, mostly voice acting, but a lot of TV series as a character actor. So I think he was one that probably got the most money out of this thing. But he was quite good as a actor playing a character. Maybe his character was somewhat simplistic, but overall I kind of liked him. Hunter or Scout, Hunter, whatever, any dog name you can think of. Scout was pretty good. I thought she was interesting and was supposed to take the place of Maya. You say Mia, I say Maya, whatever. In any case, she was somewhat interesting, I think, but again, everything, the exposition went on forever and ever, and there really wasn't anything that was generated out of it, so there's very little yield from all of that talking. So I guess that's all I have on this round. I may have some comments on the technical parts and maybe some stories to tell after this. So I will go to, let's see, do we have enough gas in this thing to get us home? Let's try special effects. We'll see how this goes. If everybody starts falling asleep, I'm just going to open it up. So I'll start with Bill, N5BB. What do you think of special effects, music, that sort of thing? Go ahead. That's what I was worried about. People may have sputtered out. Let me try with KFI-TSK. Burl, your comments, special effects, anything. Go ahead.
This is KFI-TSK. I think the special effects are really, really good. One of the things I noticed was the places where they actually, shot the movie, and I was, really impressed by that, but, everything was just, well done. Everything from the spacecraft to, it had graphics. It wasn't just a, cartoon type image. It was, really something that was really designed. So I thought they did a good job on graphics. KFI-TSK, back to that.
Hey, Bill. Well, okay. If you thought they were good, that's fine. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, your thoughts. Special effects, music, you name it. Go ahead.
This is WB5OZL. This is really a low-budget film. I didn't think the special effects were anything to brag about. I'm having trouble remembering much that they that they had in the way of special effects. I just found the whole thing confusing. You know, they find this thing, and I said, oh, well, this is not an alien thing. This is a human thing from 14,000 years ago. And then it turns out to be a spaceship, and they go to the moon, and they never really explained who made this or what they were up to or what the motivation was. You know, and this robot sat in there for 14,000 years. You know, it just, nothing made any sense whatsoever. So, music was okay. I have no complaints about it. It was different, but it was interesting. And, I think it's fitting on this night when they steal an hour from us that we had an hour and a half stolen from us watching this movie, so it just goes hand in hand. Back to that, W50 set out.
I understand. I think we're all suffering from the same thing. Let's see what happens next. W5EVB. David, I think this will probably be the final round. Your comments, anything you'd like to bring, special effects, music, you name it.
The music I thought was pretty good, you know, kind of the synthesizer, you know, eerie, kind of ambient, you know. I mean, anybody with the Korg workstation could do that, but, you know, it was still pretty good. The special effects were also pretty good, but gloriously wasted in this movie. Just a couple of special effects. The focused energy beam that shot upward from the moon after being triggered when Scout stepped onto the red beam platform. That was, of course, stolen from 2010 as Discovery entered Jupiter's orbit and triggered a similar beam shot towards Earth. And the plant at the end wasn't exactly a special effect, but it kind of smacks, that's my word for tonight, smacks of the green plant on Europa that they found, in 2010. You know, attempt no landings there. We have EBB.
Okay, David, that's what I was trying to remember from 2010, the plot contrivance. Okay, well, you nailed it first, so you get the extra 5 points. KG5BZWJ, your comments on anything you want, music, special effects, the great acting, whatever. Go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I think I'm not going to say all the effects were good. They were certainly good, you know, for you know, low budget. They were the spaceship and statues and whatnot. I thought those are, you know, decent. So the cheesy effect of the gas on the victim, on the shooting victim, you know, the assistant to the professor and Scout, that was, well, it just, I don't know what they could have done to improve it, but it was pretty kind of, it took me out of it. I wanted to mention, you know, there seems to be a bias of everybody, including the directors, of reading this thing, those hieroglyphics from left to right. Well, maybe we're supposed to read it from right to left. I mean, those languages do exist, and I don't know if they were. I don't know. I'm kind of curious if they actually made an attempt to decipher it the other way, but I think everybody's just been presuming it's left or right, which kind of weird, annoying, non-thing to complain about, but whatever. you know what? I just drawn a blank. So, swear there was other thing I wanted to say, but it's getting late. KG5BZW.
Right. Thank you, Jay. I may give an open final round, but this may be it for everybody. Let's see. Next up is KG5PMN. James, your comments on anything you want about this film. Go ahead.
This is KG5PMN. Yeah, special effects for the budget that they probably worked with. I didn't think some of them were too awfully bad. Didn't really care for the spaceship taking off when guy took off to head back to Earth. I didn't care for that spaceship views, but the takeoff and the landing and the crash for the budget looked fairly decent to me. The other reminder of Alien was when she shoves one bad robot out the door, and then reminded me of when Sigourney Weaver shoved Alien out of her escape capsule. KG5PMN, back to the net.
And the reason why I suggested tvtropes.org, so that you can build your own script, much like Drake did here, our Robert Dyke, our producer and dental floss guy. Okay, next up, at KF5PDS, Miss Billy, your comments on anything your heart desires about this fine film. Thank you for your synopses. You were actually able to, you get an A because you actually sat through the movie and took notes. So go ahead. Any additional comments you would like to make about this film? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you, Tom. The special effects I thought were good. The moon and Earth shots looked really good. I also liked the takeoffs and the landings of the ship. I thought the ship was really cool. Ship was probably the best part of the whole film. The things that bothered me, though, were two things. Was when Scout was walking on the moon, she was just walking like normal, like it was just normal gravity, and of course we know it's 1/6 the gravity of the Earth, so she should have had the characteristic moon hop, moon bounce, but she didn't have it. She just walked like normal. And also they kept commenting how the ship on Earth was made of this super hard material, like it was harder than diamond, and yet when Contral crashed it on the moon and rolled it, it just broke apart into a million pieces like it was made of fragile material. So to me it was inconsistent with the prior description. They built it up to be this super hard, unearthly material, but yet when he crashed it and it rolled across the moon's surface, it just busted up. So I thought that was very strange. But other than that, I thought the music was okay, but nothing else really stands out to me, so I will return it to you. Looking forward to hear about what we're going to do next week. So this is KF5PDS, back to now.
Very good, and I do have something. I'm going to hold it back just a little bit. I think we got a good film coming up. Let me see. Miss Carolyn says she wasn't able to transmit. I know it's difficult. I will give you this heads up. You need to have a loud enough signal, or voice, I should say, not signal, but voice, because it is box activated. So if your audio is really weak when transmitting, it may not come through. It may not key the radio that this is connected to. So give it a shot. Maybe hold the computer up a little closer if you can. And any comments you would like to make about the movie Miss Carolyn, go ahead, and we will listen in. Please go ahead. This is KE5ICX.
pretty much agree with everybody else, and I wish it was hard to keep track of the characters' names. That's one point that really stuck out. But other than that, I agree with everybody else. KC50ZT.
Very good, Miss Carolyn, and you came through fine. There was not any gaps or anything, so the sound was excellent. All right, next up, KG5ZNJ. Frank, any final comments on anything about the film you would like to say? You can only do 40 minutes worth of material, but that's okay. Do with it as you will.
It's KG5ZNJ. Well, unfortunately, in the first part of that movie, there was no special effects, really. So I didn't get to see, well, I mean, what did I see? I saw a piece of drywall in the desert with the hieroglyphics that looked like a 6-year-old drone, so wasn't much there. And then I think the only one I saw was what was mentioned there. Poor Eli got shot in the back at the beginning, and then the assassin chick who likes to smoke cigarettes, she torched him up. So that was actually not very well done. It looked very fake. You know, and it was totally needless. So yeah, you know, maybe I would have toughed out the film. I mean, I heard there was some nudity in there. maybe I would have toughed it out. But and the effects were at the back, so I don't know. I didn't see much to comment on. What I did see was not good. So that's all I got. KG5ZNJ.
All right, thank you, Frank. I have some final comments on it too, and then I'll give the movie. I think Mike said he was done, but KG5P, Mike, if you have any final comments, go ahead. I suspected he was gone. My final comments on this is it's really kind of interesting because I didn't know that this sequel even existed. I came across it quite accidentally over on YouTube. Some movies are coyly phrased in such a way that it doesn't come to the censors' actual attention. I don't know. Sony owns the rights to this thing. I don't think they made more than $1.98 out of it at best, if that. So they sometimes the film title, as you may have noticed when you went to watch it, it didn't make any sense and had anything to do with the movie. So, and I thought, well, okay. I'd seen the original Moontrap with Walter Koenig, and I even met people that were in that movie because it was filmed in Michigan when I lived in Michigan. And a science fiction group there had done their thing. And I have a suspicion that some of the people that were involved with this, Robert Dyke, perhaps, I don't know, or maybe Tex Ragsdale or whatever, I probably met them, but I didn't know who the heck they were, that they were making the film in southwest Detroit, you know, that southwest Michigan. Southeast Michigan, I'll get it right. Jeez. Spent too much in the far west of the Panhandle here. In any case, there were a lot of folks involved with this who are amateurs to a certain extent. They weren't actors in the classic sense of the word. They may have starred in this thing and the original Moontrap. And I think overall it wasn't all that terrible. It wasn't all that good either. But I kind of enjoyed it. It has all the trappings of any other film that you've seen in science fiction. It was all rolled together. I think that maybe there was a thought that we could do a dramatic, serious Star Wars, which Star Wars does that. But obviously without a budget, you can't really pull that off. Although I thought some of the effects were good. One of the things I will mention, too, is on the special effects is this. If you're going to terraform the moon, better know something about the moon before you do so. All that regolith that's on the moon is so fine dust material. Let me reset. you've got, what, 1/6 the gravity, and you've got all this stuff going on. You're creating an atmosphere. I remember, and we talked about it on the previous net, is that with the jet blast coming from, or the rocket blast coming from the lunar module, all that stuff gets thrown into the air, or into space. On this, with the material so fine, and you create this atmosphere so quickly, how the heck were they able to do that and not end up, having miner's lung or something, black lung or moon lung from all of that? Membrane's fine. That didn't make any sense to me. Plus, the dust would have made for a huge fog for so long on 1/6 gravity. How the heck could you see any of the people? I know it's just a movie, but that's what we're talking about here. So I thought all those things were quite spectacularly underdone. I think it would have been more interesting if they'd actually had that sort of transition, a survival instinct after the thing is terraformed. But if you want to see a better, less horrible version, but still horrible, Space 1999 did that in the second season. So just thought I'd mention that. All right, any final comments? Any final comments at all? Any retorts or you lie comments? Please come down.
Infab BB.
KG5 PM.
Hello, this is Juliet Kleinman, Juliet Secretary. Please do QSO with me, what?
I've got 2 with rechecks, and then I've got JQ1JXC Endo. I think you want to do a QSO, so we'll close the net in here in a minute, and then we'll let you go ahead and talk. First off, N5BB, your final comments.
One question, Tom. When you asked initially me to talk about special effects, I gave a long explanation of my thoughts. Then I looked at the radio, and it was on a different repeater. So did you get any of that?
Oh, I'm pretty sure we heard what you had to say. I can't remember specifically, but there was no gap, nothing there. If you want to repeat something, go ahead. But I think you got your message through. But if you want to repeat, go ahead.
No, I don't want to repeat. I was just curious because when I finished, I looked over and I found that there's a button on my microphone. If I accidentally push this button, then there's a rotary control that's really easy to accidentally touch that changes the frequency. And accidentally, I must have pushed that button. Anyway, no, I agree completely with your comments about the terraforming was just really unrealistic. And to me, that was silly. But I thought it was a pretty movie. I thought it was it looked okay. The spacecraft looked okay, except, as Billy, I guess, said, it wasn't scientifically correct for it to be as hard as diamond and then fall apart. But other than that, the effects were as good as you could expect for this, not even made for TV, made for Sony Entertainment, a movie. And I don't think it's a good idea to call it a remake. It's just completely unreal, or a sequel. He just had rights to the original name, and so he couldn't think of a better name, so he just started with the same word. Of course, this had nothing to do with a moon trap, and if anything, it should have been called Earth Trap Target Moon. rather than moontrap target Earth. Think about it. Why was Earth a target? That's all I got in 5BB. And welcome to our friend from, I guess, Japan.
All right, thank you, Phil, and you do make an excellent point. But I think there's been sequel movies that don't have the name no longer applies to any sequel that they make. And I can't think of any because I'm getting tired myself. All right, KG5PMN, James, your comments, final comments, anything you want to say.
It's KG5PM, and yes, I was just going to make two comments about the gasoline. I guess that was gasoline that she poured on him, and cigarette into gasoline will not really react that way. You can catch the vapors will catch on fire, but the gasoline itself won't actually burn as long as it's liquid. It'll just put the cigarette out. And also on her Scout space suit, I missed any type of oxygen bottles or anything like that when she was on the moon. KG5PMN, back to the net.
Hey, James, excellent. Okay, I'm going to make a quick comment here, and then we'll talk to Ando. And that is, next week's movie will be 41. The movie is 41. The numeral is 41. Our numeral 4 and 1 for the number 41. It is a time travel movie from 2013. And it was a winner of the Rhode Island Flickers Film Festival, the Los Angeles Film Festival, Maverick Movie Awards, and was made in Melbourne Film Festival. But don't let that put you off. Actually, I hear this thing is pretty good. So we'll have that film next week at 10:30. So if you want to secure, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to go to JQ1JXC, Ando, somewhere in Japan. Ando, we're doing a movie review type of thing here on amateur radio locally here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Did you want to mention that or just want to talk? Go ahead, sir. This is KE5ICX.
Okay, and Tom, a warning, there's at least 2 movies with the name 41. I think you want the one made in 2012, in 5BB.
Well, thank you very much. And I'll double check it to make sure that we get the right film. And I will put it out on Facebook and I'll put it out in the email. JQ1JXC, Ando. Hello from Dallas. How are you this evening? Do you have anything for us? Or for the net? Go ahead. This is KE5ICX. My name is Tom. Right, and he just disappeared, so we must have scared him off. All right, 7-3, everybody. Catch you next time. Somehow or another, this movie, we managed to go 90 minutes, like we always do. Doesn't matter how bad or how good, it seems to happen. Okay, I'm going to say 7-3. See y'all later. You can talk if you want about any and everything. We'll see you next week. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.